We are on the West Bank now, Terry.
Yes, we are on the West Bank. We're on the other side of the wall. And it took us half an hour to reach the other side of the wall. So we were standing just behind this wall half an hour ago. So you see at night there is not one light even, not one light when you're going up. It's like walking in the middle of a cemetery. Probably in the cemetery there are some lights, but not here next to the wall. You know, instead of one step into my neighbor's house, now it will take me half an hour. And still I feel I'm lucky I'm able to do it, because very soon they will prevent me from going to the West Bank area. Just like they did with Bethlehem. They officially announced Jerusalemites are not allowed to go to Bethlehem. It's another state by itself. And so my school area will be a state by itself. I won't be able very soon to enter it. And school still is something, okay, you can tolerate, but what about my children? My children are, you know, registered as Jerusalem residents like me. So at one point, they won't be able even to see their father. And that's what's driving me crazy. I can't imagine the day when my children won't be able to see their father, because we're not allowed to go into the West Bank. I don't know. Anyway, do you want to drink something? I can ask the neighbors to drink something. Water, anything.
We have a little.
Oh, there are already some cameras. I didn't see that. Wow, that's new. Already a camera. In 2004, it was in May, the army raided the hotel after the family refused to give it up and to sell it for any amount that we wanted, because they brought us empty checks, you know, saying any amount, and we said this is not for sale. They said, okay, then we will confiscate it as on security basis, and that's what they did. First of all, they shifted the borderline between Jerusalem and the West Bank, which is both sides are occupied territories. So what they did, they shifted the borderline of Jerusalem that the Israelis imposed in '67, which is exactly where the wall is standing. And if you continue straight, it will not take the hotel. The hotel should stay in the West Bank. And that's how it was treated for the last 38 years. But with the construction of the wall and the new plan for a settlement behind, the hotel was to be sacrificed. They shifted the borderline, they included it into the Jerusalem territory. The property status was changed, but not the owner's status. The owners were kept with West Bank ID cards, and accordingly the Israeli army forged an appeal to the Israeli courts saying this is absentee property. As long as the property is Jerusalem and the owners are West Bank from another country, supposedly, they tried to take it. We hired a very good Israeli lawyer, Shlomo Leker, and we brought the press and the media, you know, to tell them the facts on the ground, what the Israelis are doing, you know, the way they are stealing our property and changing our lives. And so the army, I think they were very much embarrassed, and at the end they said, okay, we're not taking it as absentee, we'll take it for security, which is the magic word they keep using. And that's how it is standing now. It's still, the case is still pending in the court. Based on security, they took over the hotel. It was under a quick renovation process. So the army, the moment they entered, they destroyed all the new aluminum windows. They they paved a road for the settlement to be without taking our permission. Can you imagine? This is the hotel I even married in. This is the hotel where all the weddings of the village were taking place. It was the most beautiful neighborhood of the village. A very beautiful residential area, calm. At night, this is all a family neighborhood. We all know each other, cousins and relatives. We would sit here with children playing on bicycles and football, whatever, and we will be, just doing hubbly bubbly and talking with each other. And overnight, the military moved in. It became a military base, and even throwing the garbage was to be searched before it is thrown into the tank. The children had to open the garbage and to throw it and to search it in front of the army before they throw it. Anyway, that's the daily realities for us. We don't want to keep talking about garbage because everything stinks in this area. So what the army did is that they paved the road. There was no road. This was all one area for the hotel. So they paved the road in the middle of our land, fencing off areas that they want. And as you see, they say in Arabic, this is only allowed for the security forces cars. So our own land, we can't even walk on it. We used to sometimes escape to Abu Dis from this entrance here, from behind. Now it's all fenced, and there's a camera that is put on top of the hotel that is monitoring the movement of all the neighbors around. I was, living in that house, and the camera would be just directly into the kitchen while I'm, doing the dishes and going into the toilet. It was a scene, by the way. So this is also the parliamentary building that has never been finished. We don't know. This was to be as a mark of a peace treaty, working peace treaty, that the parliament is built on the edges of Jerusalem city within the suburbs of Abu Dis. And as you see, it's been standing still like this for the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know what will happen. And we were so hopeful in the family that, okay, parliamentarians will be coming to the area, our hotel will be working well. All went the other direction. It's not just the hotel was frozen, it's even our lives that got frozen at one point. Now we're starting to see the settlement. This is the beginning of the settlement to be. They gave it in the name of Kidmat Zion, which is a very religious name. And it is to absorb around 250 housing units, which means nothing less than 15,000 new settlers. The settlers who moved here are members of the fanatic ideological settlement movement called Gush Imunim. So those are the new neighbors that we have, the fanatic ideological settlers. And you can see that they have not just the army to protect them and to enslave them, but also they have special guarding agents that are sitting on top of their house. So we see sometimes when the women are getting down to throw the garbage, she has a bodyguard in front and the bodyguard behind. When the women and their children are moving out of the neighborhood, there is a bodyguard car in front and the bodyguard out behind. And those bodyguards, by the way, are not paid by the government. They are paid by my taxes as a taxpayer, because these are private security companies that are paid by my taxes for special requests based on security needs. And of course the security needs are not to protect me as a taxpayer, but to protect the illegal settlers that are moving on my land against my will. And that's the controversial reality that we here live in. Because these are not only the lands that were confiscated. Behind the mountain you have a vast majority of lands that are owned by Abu Dis overnight were announced as confiscated areas for security reasons. And they won't allow me to move around because at one point I'm sure the security will follow me. But I wish I could take you, you know, like you see the wall zigzagging in and out. Palestinians out, Israelis and empty land in order to grab all that empty lands for the expansion of a settlement to be. Now, this is the third settlement in the middle of this Palestinian neighborhood of East Jerusalem. Those three settlements will break the Palestinian contiguity between Abu Dis and Zawahri, which is a historic contiguity, historic connection. It will also be part of a bigger Israeli settler plan, Jewish settlers plan, that is based on what we call, or they call, the Holy Basin, which starts from north of Jerusalem and reaches here. According to their belief, those ideological settlers, is that within that holy basin that goes through, of course, the old city and the Haram, the Dome of the Rock area, this holy basin is the area where supposedly the demolished temple was. So they expand their area, because somewhere in this holy basin area the temple was there, and they want to bring back the Jewish existence and the Jewish majority within that holy basin. That includes, of course, as I said, the old city and the Haram al-Sharif and our residential areas that we have existed on for thousands of years. Overnight, they don't care about that. That's the small plan within Jerusalem. Now, the bigger picture of Jerusalem that the Israeli municipality is not even hiding is the issue of Metropolitan Jerusalem, the master plan 2020 for the Metropolitan of Jerusalem, where if you follow the route of the wall, it is bringing Palestinian neighborhoods out and bringing illegal Israeli settlements in to the Metropolitan of Jerusalem. For example, Abu Dis, you see how Abu Dis is adjacent to Jerusalem. It's like within walking distance, 5 minutes walking distance, you're in Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem. Internationally, historically, this is Jerusalem. But Abu Dis, with its population, concentrated Palestinian population, is out of the master plan for Jerusalem, whereas Ma'ale Adumim settlement that is built on Abu Dis land, like 5 kilometers from here, is into the master plan of Jerusalem because of their Jewish majority or their Jewish existence. The same thing for Beit Lahem area. Beit Lahem, the city of Jesus, is out of Jerusalem, metropolitan, although it's 12 kilometers drive. It's like 12 minutes drive literally between center Jerusalem and center Beit Lahem. But because it's concentrated Palestinian area, it is out of the Metropolitan of Jerusalem. But Gush Etzion blocks, settlement blocks that are 20 kilometers away from Jerusalem are within the Metropolitan of Jerusalem because of their Jewish population. So the Metropolitan of Jerusalem is so clear, racist, apartheid, whatever you want to call it. Jews in, Palestinians out. So this is the bigger picture, and the internal picture is with the Israeli Jewish fanatics that we have to deal in. So you have fanatics on the ground, you have fanatics at decision-making level. You tell me what is the way out. This wall has nothing to do with security. This wall is just to protect the illegal settlements and settlers brought into the occupied territories. This wall is all about land grab and annexing more land into the state of Israel. And therefore it has advised to dismantle this wall and to stop constructing it. And today, even the Israeli announced policy is proving that the advisory decision of the International Court of Justice was right to the point. that this wall is all about land grab. These are the 3 parallel villages in this area. You have around 70,000 people living in those 3 parallel villages behind the wall with no access to the nearest city like Jerusalem, even for health services, not just for education services. And you can imagine the daily suffering of minimum the pregnant woman even. Because the nearest hospital for any pregnant woman here, if she's not able to reach the hospital of Maqasid, which is 5 minutes drive to Mount of Olives, will be Jericho, half an hour of drive, or Beit Lahem, which is another half an hour of drive. And you're lucky enough to make it on time if you're not stopped at a checkpoint. So this is the daily reality that those people are left to live and to survive through. And according to the Israeli plan, they will have 33 terminals in the country that will serve the entry into or out of the different ghettos. And the joke now in the country is that instead of having a 2-state solution, we're getting 33-state solution. And even the famous Israeli journalist Akiva Eldar, he wrote an article one time saying, we're getting a 5-state solution, getting the West Bank into 3 cantons and Gaza as a canton by itself, plus the state of Israel. But now, if you're looking into the reality and all the different terminals they are implanting at the entrance of every ghetto and canton, I believe we're getting a 33 cantons, 33-state solution, where every canton should survive on its own. The bottom line, they don't want us in this country. They want to make all realities and facts on the ground to prove their lie to come true, that they came to a land with no people for people with no land. They couldn't believe that they came to a land with people, and they want to hide that fact as much as they can. And they have the power and the US power to help them. Of course, the Christian Zionists in the US are helping them for their own reasons. And the Israelis accept that ally for their own interests and reasons. And the human beings are lost in the middle for the sake of imperialism and craziness and military power. I don't know where they are leading us. When Israeli Prime Minister Rabin, he stood up to say, we have to admit we came to a land with people and those people have rights, they assassinated him. They couldn't believe that one of them is saying that we made a big lie. And since the assassination of Rabin, the right wing have got their way in changing facts on the ground in the country. Look, this is the terminal I'm telling you about. So this is the terminal. Anybody who wants to exit or enter Abu Dis should pass through this terminal, just like the one that you will be seeing at the Qalandia checkpoint. Also another terminal. And you have to have a permit now only for West Bankers to exit the ghetto. Very soon, just like it's happening with Beit Lahem, I as a Jerusalemite will also be requested to have a permit before I enter the West Bank. And that's where my social problems will start, the nightmare of not having my children seeing their father. And look how they are making things so beautiful around the wall and the terminal, so that the Israeli passers-by will not feel the guilt of imprisoning human beings behind those walls. To that extent, they are so sensitive. They really perceive us as inhuman and not human beings, the Israelis. And they want us to sympathize with them. How can I tell my daughter that those are the same people who faced the crimes against humanity in the Holocaust? How can I convince her? How can I convince her to sympathize with them? We have nothing to do with the Holocaust as Arabs and Palestinians. We have nothing to do with it. But how can I, on human level, ask her to sympathize with that crimes against humanity and sympathize with the Jewish people? How can I? When she sees the victims of Holocaust are conducting the same Holocaust but on me and in my land, and for no reason, just because they deny my existence and deny my rights on this land, despite all the compromises I gave to live and to coexist in this land. This state is going towards apartheid, and in very quick steps. This is apartheid. There is no legal decisions now introduced to make it legally apartheid, but the daily practices are apartheid. The outcome of the land confiscation, of the building of the wall, of the ghettoization of the Palestinian people, of the masters, making the settlers the masters of the land, is a process towards legal apartheid. You like it or not, that's the circumstances now. Now look, this is the wall from the other side.
We are in the West Bank now, Terry.
Yes, we are on the West Bank, we're on the other side of the wall. And it took us half an hour to reach the other side of the wall. So we were standing just behind this wall half an hour ago.
Oh, this is the same mosque.
The same
mosque on the other side.
Exactly.
Oh.
You know, Jerusalem is the critical point for make it or break it in this conflict. All what's happening around Jerusalem, the reality is that they are establishing where they are Judaizing the city and denying the people's rights, you know, the historic people's rights in this land and in this city mainly, is going to introduce us to a period where there will be not just a third intifada, probably a third war. Because Jerusalem is a focal point in this conflict. It's not just for the Palestinians and it's not just for the Israelis. This is a city, an international city of peace. Either we make it or we break it here.
We began this documentary short film in late July 2006. This was the time that the Israeli-Hezbollah 34-day war and invasion of Lebanon commenced. It was also at the time of the Israeli siege in Gaza. Earlier, in 2004, we made a filmed documentary called The Israeli Wall in Palestinian Lands. As part of that work, we spent time in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Abu Dis as the separation wall was being constructed.
At that time, in 2004, the wall was not yet continuous. There were breaks in the wall at several points where you could still cross on foot from one side to the other. By this visit in 2006, the wall at Abu Dis had been completed, although people like Terry could still make this half-hour drive around the wall to get to work. Currently, massive terminals have been constructed, and we expect on our next visit to have to pass through this terminal, and Terry, as a Palestinian with a Jerusalem ID, would need to obtain a permit before entering the West Bank, whether to get to work or to visit her family.
The story of meeting with Terry Boulatta actually begins for me in 1988. It was then that I was with a team of Americans who were making the first eyewitness journey to the West Bank and Gaza during that first Intifada, the non-violent uprising. Terry then was in her early 20s and was a very competent and thorough guide. We skip ahead now 18 years for our reunion with Terry in her neighborhood of Abu Dis.
In 2007, we will mark the 40th anniversary of the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, 40 years since the 1967 war. This has been 40 years of land confiscation, settlement building, and the strangulation and ghettoization of the Palestinian population.
To watch more documentaries and interviews about the Middle East, visit the Alternate Focus website, alternatefocus.org. Watch the video of the week right from the homepage. Or click on the link under Watch Our Shows online. Look through our catalog of programs, select the one you want to see, and watch it for free. alternatefocus.org